And now the question of whether our Davidic king, whether the King of Kings, HAILE SELASSIE, was hiding under Queen Elizabeth's skirt during the exile of 1936 to 1941 is the most hilarious thing, but many people believe it because they don't really know any history. You know what I'm saying? They have a sketchy, foggy idea, a blurry idea of history. But the fact is that the so-called Queen of England, Elizabeth, wasn't even queen during the time of World War II. Anyone who knows history knows that she worked in some, I think, radio. She was like, you know, doing helping out people who were being hurt by the bombing of England by the Nazis, so forth and so on, who incidentally have some relation with the so-called Windsors and with this whole Saxe-Coburg monarchy that Elizabeth and her family represents. But His Imperial Majesty was not hiding under Elizabeth's skirt because she wasn't even a queen. She was a little girl. You understand? Now, if your charge was something else, like His Majesty, you know, was like that, you understand, it's still preposterous, but at least you recognize that she was a little girl and she didn't have any authority. You understand? Queen Elizabeth was not queen. She did not have any authority. In fact, England was going through a lot of shuffling of kings, because some kings were dying. One king in particular, I think it was Edward or somebody like that, that His Imperial Majesty sent a gift to, you know, returned a gift after the coronation. They sent back the scepter, you know, and certain other elements that they had kept and was shuffled around from like ancient Rome and, you know, to England, because England and Rome has like an ancient relation. In fact, Bath, England, where His Imperial Majesty went to, was the former capital, you understand, the capital and central city of the Roman Empire at one time. That's the whole link in ancient days between ancient Rome and modern so-called London or modern England and Great Britannia. That's the main link. So you went to the ancient capital of the Roman Empire. That was Bath, England. One particular fella, some Israelite fella, you understand, a so-called black Hebrew Israelite fella, he said some lion. He was like saying some lion he was, to speak of His Imperial Majesty in exile, some lion he was, because according to this particular so-called black Hebrew Israelites, lions don't go into exile or whatever like that. Lions many times have gone into the dens of their sworn enemies. You understand? Have gone right into the dens of their sworn enemies and just lay down, not lay down, but you know, like when the lion sits down and just watches. You understand? To confront its enemies. I mean, this is known to anybody who really knows about lions and the so-called jungle. You understand? Lions are bold. That's what it means, bold as a lion. Because only a lion will go into the den of its sworn enemy. You understand? And confront its sworn enemy and even get its sworn enemy to work on its behalf. You understand? We see this many times in the jungle with the hyenas and the other animals. When a lion is strong and a lion is bold, you understand? These other animals, they still do their stuff, but they do their stuff in coordination with that bold lion. And this is what His Imperial Majesty did. So it's the most ridiculous thing when they tried to insinuate that His Imperial Majesty, our Davidic king, you understand, went into exile and was hiding under so-called Queen Elizabeth's skirt. First of all, they're wrong historically. They're wrong factually, because Elizabeth was not a queen. She wasn't queen. She was a little girl. In fact, it was 1952. Now, see, 1952, 1941, that's about 9, 10, 11 years later, would Elizabeth become Queen Elizabeth. Yovas, and see, so the whole invasion of Ethiopia and everything was turned around on Rome. You understand? Was turned around on Europe. The whole match that was struck in Ethiopia, the prophecy of the King of Kings before all nations came to pass. They never thought that a war would happen. That's why all these historians still be on TV talking about, wow, this war really was the greatest war and did the greatest damage, and nobody expected it to be like what it was, and you know, how could it backfire like it did? Honest historians, they point out if we had listened to that Davidic king, HAILE SELASSIE, this would have never happened. But then you got a lot of these guys that come along nowadays, you understand, who are running some games, so they try to avoid, you understand, a large part and significant part of history. You understand? And that's about the Holocaust that happened in Ethiopia against the blameless Ethiopians and the courageousness of His Imperial Majesty. You see what? A lot of them go wrong because they look at the pictures like this. For example, put up this picture right here. This particular picture where you see His Imperial Majesty and Queen Elizabeth riding in a coach and riding in a carriage. You understand? And they think that this was the time of the exile. This was after the exile. In fact, England, after World War II, it became a second-rate power. England was an empire. You understand? Before exile of His Imperial Majesty. After the exile of His Imperial Majesty, England was a broke pocket, poor country by comparison to what it was. You understand? It fell from being an empire. And this is where America, you understand, became the world superpower, and the whole thing between the Russians and the Americans and between East and West and all of that developed and everything. But England became second rate after that. England was punished for its disobedience to the Davidic King of Kings. So His Imperial Majesty did not hide under Elizabeth's skirt. You know what I'm saying? Elizabeth was not even queen in between 1936 to 1941. And what these so-called black Jews and Hebrew Israelites, and some of them who should know better, what they keep saying is that they are Israelites, you understand, like Saul and the northern tribes of Israel. You remember when David was king in Hebron for about, king in Hebron, and they became king in Jerusalem, but he was king in Hebron for about 7 years. And the Israelites who were following after Saul, you understand, refused to recognize the Davidic monarchy. And this is the main difference between those Judahites, those true Judahites, like the true Rastafari and the true Ethiopian Hebrews, you understand, and the other so-called black Jews and black Hebrew Israelites who are like the northern tribes that we mentioned in the earlier video, were destroyed. Why were they destroyed? For the disobedience. They never had allegiance nor loyalty to the Davidic king. In fact, even as Israelites, they fought against the throne of David. They fought against the monarchy of David. In fact, they fought against Zion. They fought against Zion. And this is what you should know. This is more of the half of the story that hasn't been told. And we're going to go into a little bit more, Yah willing. But for right now, that's all. Shalom. Salam.